listen, Patrick, it is like a kick in my gut to have to compliment the FBI. But if there's one thing that they are really good at, it's interrogation. And we should have just let them do their job.
Legal interrogation.
Correct.
Not creative CIA, the stuff that you guys...
Precisely.
Really? So you give them credit on... So
they've been doing it since the Nuremberg investigations.
What is the different tactics they use in interrogation from the CIA?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good question. It's the most basic one. Their tactic is to sit across the table like you and I are doing right now, treat each prisoner with respect.
Right.
Maybe you give him an apple or a cup of tea or a cigarette, and you establish this rapport, this relationship. Eventually, he's going to talk to you. Eventually. For the CIA, there was this element of revenge. 9/11 was the worst intelligence failure in the history of the Republic. And so there was this idea that we had to avenge the deaths of 3,000 Americans. We had the deaths of 3,000 Americans on our shoulders. And so you want to go in there with fists flailing. And that just didn't accomplish anything. Besides the fact that the CIA did not stop at those 10 techniques. They did things that the Justice Department had never approved, that nobody had ever been trained in. You know, things well beyond waterboarding, things that I thought were worse than waterboarding.
Like what?
Like, for example, what they called the cold cell. A cold cell, you're stripped naked, you're chained to an eye bolt in the ceiling, so you can't sit or lay or get comfortable in any way. Your cell is chilled to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and then every hour, a CIA officer throws a bucket of ice water on you. Okay, we killed prisoners with that technique. They had hypothermia and they died. And what do? We just dig a hole outside the interrogation room and put them in the hole and cover it up.
Literally?
Yeah. You can't send the body back to their families. You don't even know where they're from half the time. The other one was sleep deprivation, which sounds kind of silly. But for example, Don Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense at the time, and he poo-pooed this whole thing in the press, saying, I have a stand-up desk in my office, and sometimes I work for 24 hours standing there. Sleep deprivation doesn't hurt anybody. Well, we're not talking about standing for 24 hours at Don Rumsfeld's desk. We're talking about something far worse. The American Psychological Association, the APA, was on contract to the CIA at the time. They told us that people begin to lose their minds at day 7 with no sleep. They begin to die of organ failure at day 9. The CIA was authorized to keep people awake for 12 days. Now imagine, again, you're chained to that eye bolt in the ceiling with industrial strength lighting on you 24 hours a day and death metal at volume 11 in your cell 24 hours a day. And then your organs just shut down and you die chained to that eye bolt.
And you heard and saw many stories of people that died that didn't make it past night.
We would get cables, the next morning saying, unfortunately, prisoner so-and-so passed away as a result of interrogation. We will, dispose of his body in this way. And I'm like,
and all this stuff is being documented and communicated.
Yep.
How does the CIA protect that somebody right there doesn't take a screenshot and keep it in their phones for later on in case if the CIA flips and comes after them, for them to say, let me tell you what I have on you guys, leave me alone?
I don't mean to smile, but the CIA would tell you that that's an easy answer. It's called the Espionage Act. Because if you breathe one word to the press, we're going to charge you with espionage.
Is that what happened to you?
3 counts. Mm-hmm.
So walk me through it when this happened, because from the moment you left, it didn't happen 8 years until after
Correct.
You left the CIA, right? 7 or 8 years.
I wish I could tell you that I took a moral stand and I went up there and I told them. That wasn't it at all. It was actually selfish on my part. So I'm seeing these cables come back from the secret sites. And I'm thinking to myself, this is wrong, wrong, wrong. This is absolutely illegal. Listen, we've got a law in this country called the Federal Torture Act of 1946 that specifically outlawed these techniques. And not only are we signatories to the United Nations Convention Against Torture, we wrote the United Nations Convention Against Torture, which, again, specifically outlawed these techniques. And then, like magic, in 2002, it's all legal. Well, the law never changed. Let me add, before I get to your specific point, in 1945, we executed Japanese soldiers who had waterboarded American POWs. That was a death penalty crime to waterboard somebody. In January of 1968, Secretary of Defense Robert S. McNamara saw a front page photograph in the Washington Post of an American soldier waterboarding a North Vietnamese prisoner. He ordered that the soldier be investigated. That soldier was arrested. He was convicted of torture and sent to Leavenworth for 20 years. And as I said, the law never changed. We changed. And so, like magic, in 2002, because we didn't like that law, we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. So I'm seeing all these cables come back. I'm thinking, this is wrong, wrong, wrong. Certainly somebody's going to say something. And then I'm seeing cables from people who were out there at the secret site saying, whoa, I never signed up for this. I think this is illegal. I quit.
People are saying that
in writing, in the cables.
And you're seeing people quitting.
Yeah.
How often did that happen?
With regularity. I'm going to say at least a dozen people either resigned, retired, or curtailed.
Because of this specific reason. Okay.
We had a secretary who passed out while watching somebody be tortured. We had doctors. There was a doctor who revived Abu Zubaydah when his heart stopped during waterboarding. Revived him so he could be tortured more. And he's like, look, I took a Hippocratic oath. First, do no harm. I'm not doing this. That's a career-ending decision to curtail an assignment and come back. But they did. They quit, they retired, or they curtailed. So I thought, well, certainly somebody's going to say something. And then I left in 2004. My resignation was effective 2005. I went into the private sector. And then in 2007, December of 2007, I get a call from Brian Ross at ABC News. And he said he had a source who said that I had tortured Abu Zubaydah. I said that was absolutely untrue. I was the only person who was kind to Abu Zubaydah. I said I never laid a hand on him or on anybody else. And so he said, and I didn't know this was an old reporter's trick because I'd never spoken to a reporter before. He said, well, you're welcome to come on the show and defend yourself. I said, yeah, I'll think about it. Hi, everybody. I'm John Kiriakou, former CIA officer. Please find me on Minect. We have a lot to talk about. CIA, FBI, DOD, torture, secret prisons, international renditions. Maybe you or your child want to apply for a job at the CIA and are looking for some tips. Let me know. There's a lot we can talk about. You pick the subject, we'll make it happen. Again, it's on Minect. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.